Ladies and gentlemen, presenting the Professor, Greg Dooley, and the pundit, Steve Clark. Men, take the mic.
Will Michigan basketball be number one? It's the Professor and the Pundit with Greg Dooley and Steve Clark, and we're proudly presented by Nick Hopwood, who's a certified financial planner, founder, and president of Peak Wealth Management. Retire with peak confidence. Visit Nick's website at peakwm.com, and we're going to talk a lot about college football and what's coming up for Michigan and the college football playoff and the chaos. But Greg, we got to start with Michigan basketball.
No, and it's been such an exciting week of all the things going on around Michigan athletics. So yeah, we have to. 4 straight dominant performances that are leaving people kind of scratching their heads, wondering what we're dealing with here. We touched on it last time a little bit, Steve, but another amazing dominant performance.
So Wolverines basketball had a ton of time off from their 3-day trip in Vegas, but the dominance continued with another 100-point performance on Saturday. It was another 40-point win over Rutgers Saturday afternoon. And could they be number one when the rankings come out Monday? Michigan hasn't been ranked number one in nearly 13 years. This week, they were already number one in the net rankings, but we're talking about the archaic coaches and writers polls that always comes out and gets everybody's attention. What do you think, Greg?
It's early December, so I'm less concerned about the rankings. It's nice. What we have is a very, very unique and special team, which is one of the best teams in the country. And I don't think that's going to change come around March. So I'm less concerned about being the number one team or this or that. But barring injury, nothing's going to stop this team from being one of those top elite teams this season. That's what I think, man. That's what I see.
I think it's possible. The coaches poll last week had Michigan 2 and Arizona 3 and flip-flopped in the writers poll. However, number one Purdue lost with a thud, a 23-point loss at home to number 10 Iowa State. That opens the door for Michigan and Arizona to make this claim. The Wildcats, by the way, on Saturday beat Auburn by 29 points in Arizona Saturday. That's about the same amount as Michigan did in Vegas. So, of course, the rankings mean nothing in December, but it is a feather in Michigan's cap when it hasn't been done in so long.
Yeah, sure. Historically, give me that number one season, or more importantly, maybe the number one seed heading into the tournament, and I'll take it. Maybe another Big Ten championship moving back. But I love some of these players, man. Probably my favorite is Big Rez, as I call him, and that's Morez Johnson Jr. Had a huge game against RU. I love his floor presence, his energy. He is a leader out there. He's never made a three-pointer in his career, which we found out against RU. And when he pulled up and knocked down 2 3-pointers, I joined the rest of the country going, what is happening here with this team? That was the sign for me. One guy whose shots, in high school, he was the 2-time, Mr. Basketball in Michigan. That's Trey McKinney. His shots haven't been falling consistency, but wow, they will start because he's barely missing. And once they do, watch out. And then the big guy, Mara, he can move as best as you would see for a guy with his frame. But he has fantastic hands, Steve. You remember Hunter Dickinson. He was so good as a freshman. But as he progressed, one of the things that I was always frustrated with, and this happened at Kansas too, was how often, he'd take an extra dribble and it would go off his foot, or he couldn't catch the pass, right? He had such trouble securing the ball. Everybody, including Mara, does such a good job handling the ball. It's remarkable.
It's the fundamentals have returned to Ann Arbor. And that was one.
That might be the title of this podcast.
Yeah, a lot of credit to John Beilein and his focus on the fundamentals, and it showed on the basketball court.
Yeah, but another thing we saw with Beilein, teams, a lot of them, even the ones that made Sweet 16s and Final Fours, they struggled in October, November, and December. They took some time to grow, and we were all happy by the end of the year, generally speaking. But we're seeing this great team now. That's the one difference I would say, but I totally agree on the fundamentals. On top of it, Steve, how fun are these guys on TV to watch?
Well, it's a change from last year when we admitted on this podcast, and probably more often to ourselves, how Michigan basketball was a hard watch with all the careless turnovers right now it's ecstasy.
Yeah,
watching Michigan basketball.
It's fantastic. In fact, we're recording this. Many of you will hear this, but I'll be at the Villanova game, and I'm excited to watch this team. They've won with so many different people. The bench is so deep. They're so unselfish, Steve. And think about it. Like, look, these are all little individual entrepreneurs, okay? They've got to think about their brand, their playing time. They have people representing them. They're fighting for playing time. Guys who were playing last year are not playing as much this year. So you would think there'd be a mindset like, okay, if I don't make something happen here, that guy's getting in. Well, they're making it happen with smart passes and another pass and a rebound and grabbing a loose ball. It's really great. And we have to credit Dusty May. What else are we supposed to do here? Yeah.
I know that last week on the podcast, I said this is the best I've ever seen Michigan play. The NCAA statistics bore that out with the number of firsts that Michigan had over that Vegas tournament, now extending into a fourth game with Rutgers. So now more and more people are coming to the forefront. John Beilein saying it, over the weekend. This is the best I've ever seen Michigan play. Other people are joining that. And it's a short period of time. We're only talking about 4 games. Let's not get overly excited, but I am excited. And this basketball season looks to be absolutely amazing coming up. The Spartans, despite losing to number 4 Duke at the Breslin Center, played that close enough that says to me that they have staying power to be along in the top 10. Purdue is going to be right up there as well. They're a top 5 team. And Illinois is going to be good enough to beat any of these 3 teams along the way, Michigan State, and Purdue. So, I mean, there's 4 teams right there that I think all have a chance of making the Sweet 16 or better.
No, the outlook's great. I watched a lot of the State-Duke game. Fantastic game. They are a tough team. They look like a Tom Izzo team, right? They don't look quite to be the same level as Michigan, but we've got to have to used to it. The Big Ten on the road is really tough. We're probably going to drop a handful of games on the road, but we've got some amazing basketball coming up, which is great because it hasn't been as exciting, especially in the wake of the Ohio State loss, Steve. But we've got an interesting bowl game coming up, which, has turned more into a pre-preseason, a pre-spring game? Is that kind of what the bowls are now for the non-playoff competitor?
It's, opt-out bowls are a part of it. You definitely get to see the reserve players that are coming up to possibly, be in starting positions. And it's an experimental season in a lot of these ways. A lot of the seniors will decide not to play in this. I don't have any of that information as of right now, but just a couple of hours ago, it was announced that Michigan will play Texas in the Citrus Bowl at Orlando. Texas and Michigan with identical 9-3 records, but here's a huge difference. The Longhorns have 3 wins over the top 10 at the time that they played them, 2 wins over teams in the current playoff. Needed overtime, though, to beat 2 of the worst teams in the SEC during the course of October. So like Alabama last year, I guess it's going to depend on which Texas team shows up.
Yeah, we're going to see a lot of different players, like you said. And we're probably going to see a lot of those players on the field a lot next year. So it'll be exciting. There's interest, just like when we heard we were playing Alabama. There's excitement about it. I don't know how many people are planning on going down. And the other thing is we get, of course, are all the bowl practices preparing for this game against a tough opponent.
And it will be dubbed as Arch Manning, that I've dubbed Ouch Manning versus Bryce Underwood.
Yeah.
And obviously, Arch, who is now going to be the preseason Heisman favorite for 2026, will lead the Texas Longhorns, who had a strong reputation defensively while their offense kind of really struggled most of the season. One of the big storylines, who gets the blame for Texas's dismal showing on offense? Initially, it was Arch Manning, and then it was, if you watch it, it was because of their offensive line. The offensive line was considered the weakest position group on the team. Defensively, they were certainly a lot better.
Yeah, and we'll talk more about this game as we start to get some tea leaves into who's playing, like who's staying, or any players taking off, and all that kind of stuff. And we'll get a little better sense for this game as we come up.
Meanwhile, last night, the game on Conference Championship weekend, it was not Alabama versus Georgia. It was not Duke over Virginia in overtime. The game of the season, of the entire season, was last night, and your Big Ten champions are the Indiana Hoosiers.
Unbelievable. So happy. Happy for a few reasons. Obviously, it probably starts with Ohio State having a blemish on their record, like they did last year, even though they won the national championship. They were not undefeated. The other thing, historically, it prevents Ohio State from winning Big Ten title number 40. Of course, they got one taken away. They have 39 right now. We have 45. Yes, we're keeping track. So there's that. It is Cignetti, as we've said here, has been maybe the thorn in the side for a lot of athletic directors deciding what to do, because if he can gather a bunch of players from James Madison and make the playoff last year, and now do this, right? Beat Oregon on the road and beat what everyone thought was the best team in the country. Yeah, you can do it, and teams like Indiana can thrive. And does that say something about parity in college football, which hasn't been there over the last decade and a half? Is it here? I don't know. It seems very exciting. I'm sure the ratings for the game were phenomenal last night.
To your latter point, it makes fans and athletic directors believe in the fact that a turnaround can happen with anyone within 2 years. Other coaches are probably going, really? Is this the standard now that I have to live up to?
Yeah.
2 years and out. It's like, well, it's clearly not working here after a year and a half. Ask Jonathan Smith. You're out the door. And that can be a problem. Or it could be a reason to give fans hope and keep on buying those tickets if they feel like it's not going to be a 5-year turnaround plan. It's going to be more like a 2-year turnaround plan. But IU, with their third Big Ten football championship, what's crazy is there's so few of them I can name the years that they did it in. 2025. Their last one was in 1967. Their last outright title before that was their first one in 1945. This game was almost derailed by Fernando Mendoza getting trucked by Ohio State's Caden Curry on the game's opening play. And then wide receiver Omar Cooper went out just a couple of minutes later. This game could have been a no contest and Ohio State cruises to victory. But in for Omar Cooper is Charlie Becker, who has a career high. Both of those players, Cooper and Becker, were key in the comeback in Indiana's win over at Penn State. Man, one guy goes down, another guy steps up for Indiana. They made the plays. And late in the game, Indiana on a 3rd and 6 decides to throw the ball deep on one-on-one coverage to Becker. He catches it. It allows Indiana almost to extinguish the clock thereafter. And my question to you is, do you ever see Michigan, past, present, or future, that would decide to throw that ball up there on a 3rd and 6 with that little amount of time remaining?
No, all our former coaches are scrolling through my head, and I'm trying to think of who, and no, I do not ever see that.
Maybe Gary Moeller would have done
maybe.
it.
Maybe.
Because he did the 4th and 1 against Notre Dame.
He sure did. Although that was a read, too. That was a read with the defense.
Right.
It was a toss was one of the plays. But, yeah, so, look, give that to the quarterback to decide. No, incredible. Cignetti, he talked about it after the game. He's probably half a psychopath, which if you saw his facial reaction walking off the field, maybe that's what it takes.
He's legendary.
Yeah, he is something else.
You can Google him. He's legendary.
I was not buying his act, Steve. I've said it on these in this podcast before. Wasn't buying it until that Oregon game, and then they had me sold, especially when I saw how their defense played in that game. Did I think they were going to win this game? No, I did not. And hats off to them. But that's not taking it away from them. That Ohio State's a great team. They did it again, but Ohio State did some things to themselves.
Yes, they
didn't
did.
They? Yeah.
Old issues came up. They trailed 13-10. I think everybody kind of noticed the significance of the final score between Ohio State's loss last Saturday and the last time they lost a game to Michigan and Columbus. Identical scores of 13-10. But there they are, knocking on the door to take the league. The Buckeyes had 2 3rd and 1s. They passed the ball both times. Both were incomplete. On the first 4th and 1, they did a quarterback sneak that didn't work. And then the second time around, they decided to kick the field goal to tie. And oh my gosh, Ohio State kicker Jaden Fielding hooked a 27-yard field goal. This is the same kicker that missed 2 from under 40 against Michigan in the Wolverines' miracle win in Columbus. Noah Ruggles is probably writing a sympathy card to Fielding today. Unbelievable that it came down to that, or you can believe it because this has kind of been their pattern.
No, it has. Their kicking errors have been horrific. It must be driving their fans nuts.
Do you remember
Great
Noah
to
Ruggles?
see.
Do you remember
Yeah,
Noah
yeah,
Ruggles?
yeah,
It was
sure.
Georgia
No, of
game
course.
2022,
I know.
50-yarder.
I know it. Right at the strike of midnight as the ball was dropping. Steve, we were in Scottsdale.
We were in Sky Harbor Airport.
I was in Scottsdale relaxing. But couldn't happen to a better team. I love, too, like the Michigan trolls are in, and then now the Ohio State fans are coming over the top and saying, yeah, we beat you. Well, here's my little Teflon for that, Steve. You know, I have an Indiana degree, so I am a Hoosier as well. So you really can't mess with Dooley here.
No, you can't.
I'm really enjoying this. I'm a parent of an IU student currently as well, so this was especially fun for me, I got to say. Although it ruined my case study in my NIL class, which is based on Indiana University, and it kind of presupposes they don't have a powerful football team. So I'm going to have to rewrite that one.
I guess so.
To my NIL students.
I guess so.
listening.
So
Yeah.
are the recruiting rankings for Indiana,
Oh,
too.
my
They're
God.
they're dismal, and yet they're still getting it done. But Ohio State, again, I mean, you got to think their fan base is like, if it's 3rd and 1, stop passing the damn ball and just run. I mean, you've got capable runners for Ohio State on 3rd and 1. And they decide to do some sort of tush-push type of thing that didn't work out because Julian Sayan's knee got cut out. And, I mean, he was down a yard short. I mean, and
then to go for the sure field goal. And then,
right. Well, it's like, oh, they're finally doing something smart and just kicking the field goal. But, I figured that Ryan Day's vanity would get in the way the first time. It didn't the second time. Let's tie it up. I like Ohio State's chances in overtime. And then Fielding misses the field goal, his 3rd most critical miss in his career.
Ouch.
And you know why Urban Meyer smiles so much and takes it so well when Ohio State loses, Greg?
Because he's selfish about his legacy?
It makes him more legendary.
Yes, that's right.
That's exactly right, Greg. Every time Ohio State pulls out disaster from the clutches of victory, Urban Meyer just looks and smiles and says, that's why I'm the greatest.
What a guy. What a guy. Yeah, this is fun. And,
You don't want me speaking to the team? Fine. Go ahead and lose without me.
College football, once again, does not disappoint and set up quite the other games set up quite some controversy with the playoff, which, Steve, you predicted. You said, hey, when it goes to 2, it goes to 4. Well, 5 is going to be a bigger problem. And a lot of people even said at 4, well, what chances do the 5th team have? This year, we might have had 3 teams that a lot of people would think would have a legitimate shot at maybe making a run and winning it. And one of them for sure had to be left out as long as the other 2. But as you know, we all know, it came down to Alabama, Miami, and Notre Dame. The debates were fun and funny, but complex, man, and they got deep.
It's
And,
hard.
Yeah,
It's hard.
It was hard. So no sympathy for the decision they had to make because of the system. But Steve, I do give you credit. You predicted this is going to happen. And I assume you would predict, no matter how big the field is, that this is going to happen.
It gets worse because the lines get blurred from 16 to 17 or 23 to 24. It gets even more finite. The thing is, when do you have a healthy dose of a reality check that says these numbers aren't going to win the championship anyway? But over the last year, I think we saw a lot of parity in college football for the 2025 season. This is essentially not a 12-team playoff. This is a 10-team playoff. 9, 10, 11, 12. There's some really good teams. Let's not forget about BYU.
Yeah.
Whose only 2 losses came to the same team, and yet they were penalized in a way that Alabama wasn't. Controversy there.
Yeah.
But Alabama is in, Miami is in, and Notre Dame is out. And the summary of their arguments would say this. Alabama people would have said, why bother playing a conference championship game if you get punished for playing the extra game? And Bama had the analytics. Miami says, why bother playing games if head-to-head doesn't even count? Just straightforward, why do we even play football games if head-to-head doesn't even count? And Notre Dame was saying, look, our losses were 10 games ago. C.J. Carr hadn't even thrown a pass yet. We're trying to figure out who we are. They dominated in their wins. There was lots of arguments. But Miami and Notre Dame, they both didn't play in Week 13 and somehow flipped from last Tuesday's rankings. I don't understand it. Their resumes were over.
Yeah.
There was nothing more to add. However,
I give
that's
them a
what they
pass.
got.
I give them a pass on that a little bit. So, and Herb Street talked about this a lot, like in the aftermath. Like, what do the Tuesday rankings mean? At what point do you have to hold them accountable for what they did the previous week? I get it, Steve. I understand. I don't mind them doing what they did. I will say, do we have to come down? Who would you leave out? Maybe we should start there. Okay, who would you leave out?
So after careful consideration,
Please.
and unlike the playoff committee that had 15 weeks to decide, I decided in 5 minutes that Notre Dame, as much as I think they could do damage in this tournament and in this bracket, the lack of a big win, okay, their highest rated win was USC at home, and they were 17th. Not playing in the 13th game, I think, hurt Notre Dame eventually.
Interesting. So we got to talk about that. I was leaning toward Miami when I thought about this. I haven't had a ton of time to think. I've seen more of Notre Dame. They are a way different team and better team now. They do count things like, are you missing players? Where in that is how much have your players developed from the beginning to the end? And yes, I'm coming in with a little bit of bias. Strangely enough, for Notre Dame, because of CJ Carr and how much I've seen them, it's really tough. That game was at Miami. Correct me if I'm wrong, right? So in this is a virtual world where we're comparing teams. How fair was that? They only lost by a field goal. We can both agree Miami outplayed them in that game. Let's just put that aside. Interesting, though, neither one of us said Alabama, who didn't look really good in that game against Georgia. My hard part about that, with Alabama winning the game at Georgia, that's a little different to me. That head-to-head's a little different. And we both kind of gave Alabama a pass on, in our little committee here.
So if you were asked me a different question, and I don't expect you to be Oz the mentalist and be a mind reader to me, ask a different question and say, what teams are playing the best right now?
Yeah.
Alabama's out.
Okay.
Alabama's sliding over the last few weeks. They don't have a run game, and their passing game is not as dominant as it used to be. But Alabama got in because it's supposed to be a season-long resume, and they were absolutely unbelievable in the month of October, beating one ranked team after another ranked team. And I'm not talking about beating number 21 and number 24. They were beating top 10 teams. They were beating teams ranked in the teens, and it was this gauntlet of a schedule that said Alabama was probably the best team in the SEC. Plus, of course, they beat Georgia, which was probably one of the biggest wins of the season. But if you ask me a different question of those three teams, which team is playing the worst right now? It's the Crimson Tide.
Okay, so under that standard, that would get Notre Dame and Miami in,
right?
Which helps them a little bit because they don't have to deal with that head-to-head. But
right.
then now we're talking about the other head-to-head. Okay, so it's wild. So where else do you want to go? Like the ACC barely almost got shut out of this, and I do think that's a factor. I think that's a factor here, too. I think the big conferences won in this. And Notre Dame, of all teams, was the smallest number of casualties here, where you could have left an entire conference and their distribution out of this thing. And then the other thing I saw, Steve, was they were mostly protecting the notion of these conference championships. I think the Texas Tech situation's a little different in BYU because they played twice. But if they punished Alabama, they basically said this money pot, this SEC championship doesn't matter that much. And I don't think they're ever going to do that. So, okay, Notre Dame's not in the conference. We only have to make them mad. So Notre Dame, you're out.
What we're learning about the committees through this is it almost seems like you're making decisions that don't screw your future. Forget the idea of judging who the best teams are. It says if you make this move, this is going to change college football later. And they don't want to do that, so they're going to finagle some sort of predetermined destiny of who gets in and who gets out. Conspiracies about how Alabama jumped ahead of Notre Dame, and the reason why is they had a good second half against Auburn, a team that I don't think made the bowls.
Yeah.
How do you justify that?
They did. They protected the logic of the current system and where the money flows in the moves they made.
It was a setup. Now, here's where I want to take this. Because of all of this hand-wringing and angst and conspiracies of failure and what this means for the future, Tony Petitti, earlier this year, before the season started, said, I can erase all your pain and angst with my plan. And the college football universe laughed at him and said it was ridiculous. This is what the ACC commissioner, Jim Phillips, wanted. He wanted merit-based. He didn't want fixed amount of teams. That's anti-American. That's anti-college football. You get what you deserve. The ACC got what they deserved. Jim Phillips argued the merit that the ACC champion should be in no matter what, plus Miami.
Yes.
He had the cojones to actually say 2 of my teams should get in. And I can make an argument that none of them should be in. Duke, their champion, lost 5 games. They lost a game at home to Illinois, 45-19. The ACC, this is not a one-year anomaly. They stunk last year, and they showed it in the playoff. So the ACC is barely better than a group of 5, as it becomes with. And then, let's add to this. Criticism directed at the tie-breaking rules over the weekend by multiple media people that prevented Miami from playing in the championship game. Well, you can't get into convoluted tie-breaking results when you end divisions and play just over a little of 50% of your conference membership to see who wins a conference championship.
Right.
You got rid of divisions. You inflated your members in a conference where you have a schedule that plays barely 50% of them. And then you want to come back and say, well, they just got to figure out how to put Miami in the conference championship game and get it done with. That should be easy. Let's ignore all the rules and all the tie-breaking scenarios to determine who champions are. Come on, guys.
Yep.
And I'm saying, come on, guys, to the media says that this is the fix.
Yeah.
Let's just find a way to get Miami in because we know Miami's a better team. We're literally going full circle arguments, Greg, on the idea of the debates of solving a mythical national championship by having a playoff system and then ignoring a conference championship and their rules to get into a playoff. And so now we're going to have a mythical conference championship.
Right.
If we decide to get rid of conference championships, which they feel like is a waste of time, it hurts the recruiting calendar, it forces head coaches to leave, all that sort of stuff. Their solution, get rid of the conference championships. Great. Are we really at a point where we no longer say, this conference doesn't even have anything to play for anymore? We're in a conference that doesn't award a trophy, that doesn't award a title. This is what the talking heads and scribes are debating with right now.
No, I understand. Because they tried to do that originally, where the conference champion had an incentive. You got that bye. They didn't like the way that worked. Now they're kind of reverting back to this. And so the question is, well, would you ever get rid of the conference championship? Well, let's go back to the money problem again. Those are worth a ton of money. So the only way you would ever get rid of, say, a conference championship, if you did, which I think is ridiculous, you'd have to have a way oversteer on guaranteed slots and money in a much larger playoff where that would make up for the money. You mentioned Tony Petitti. I think he's smiling right now. I think he should be. I think he's really happy because what he's going to get out of this is another conference who's on his side to go, yeah, maybe we should go back to that conversation about guaranteed slots. So they get what they want. Then you can do this some type of way to incent the teams in your conference, either in a championship weekend or some other way, to use those 4 automatic bids to incentivize those final games, whatever they are, the championship weekend, if it's the top 6 teams, which we've talked about, to steer that where you're in for a spot or you're in for a bye or all of that stuff. But that's what Tony Petitti was trying to do. And behind all that, of course, are new potential games and new things to sell and market. And that's what they want. And he's probably smiling like a baby right now. And by the way, the Big Ten has 3 of the top 5 seeds in this playoff tournament.
And if Tony Batiti's plan was into fruition this year, and believe me, I say this with reservation to be on Tony Batiti's side of anything right now. Okay, let's just make that perfectly clear. But the 4-4-2-2-1-1-1-1 system that was kind of weird to say numbers-wise, who isn't happy in this situation? The Big Ten got 3 teams in. Well, now they got 4 teams in. The SEC, in a 16-team playoff, would get more than the 5 that they currently got into this format. And almost everybody in the SEC that thought they were worth something, Texas, Vanderbilt, would have been included into that format. The Big 12 would have had Texas Tech and BYU in it. Instead, they got 1. The ACC isn't going to be displaced by James Madison in this format. They get 2 teams.
Yeah.
They get Miami, and maybe it's Duke or somebody else they think is worthy of being in there. They could have been happy. But no. No, they laughed at Tony Batiti back in June when every conference had their bully pulpit moments to talk about what they think the future of college football was like. Everybody turned on Tony Batiti, and now I think everybody wishes that Tony Batiti's system was in place for this 2025 season. I don't imagine who is a loser in that situation.
Maybe Notre Dame.
The way it comes out, well, Notre Dame probably could have been guaranteed because I thought the idea was that Notre Dame would be ranked in the top 16 and would automatically get that berth. So even Notre Dame would have been happy.
Yeah, they would have to have some provision for Notre Dame. But, it's funny about Notre Dame. Like if you buy the system argument and the big conference argument, which I think was in play here and protecting the championship games, Notre Dame was a casualty probably for the first major time. Everyone's been railing on, join a conference, maybe you should join a conference and play a conference schedule. I think it hurt them this time, Steve.
But they've known for decades that this moment was happening.
Yeah.
We're not being in a conference might cost them.
Yeah, it hurt them. It definitely didn't help them. And you saw, if you buy our argument, that they protected the sanctity of the system, and the system is currently designed to go through those championships. It's wild, Steve. It should make for some interesting stuff. I don't know.
Let me do one more thing here for a moment.
Please.
We have a 10-team playoff, and we're adding Tulane and James Madison. Would Notre Dame not be a 2-touchdown favorite over James Madison or Tulane if they were playing in?
Nick Saban made this argument.
Did he really?
Yeah, well, what he said was, hey, we've got all this criteria that we applied to 10 of the teams, and then we have a different set of rules for 2 of the teams. He goes, those 2, dichotomies of thinking have to come together and be homogenized a little bit, because it's clearly what happened.
Right.
And you're exactly right. Vanderbilt would be a 10-point favorite over these teams. What do you want to say? Yeah. I mean.
Well, what I want to say is, the reason why the group of 5 was allowed in, because they wanted inclusivity.
Yes.
Who wanted inclusivity? The media people wanted inclusivity. Fan bases wanted inclusivity. Because if you remember when Virginia Tech was like a 1AA team, but they were undefeated, they could compete. Boise, they could compete. They beat Oklahoma in the Fiesta, remember? Give them a chance. So there was this outcry from all of these people who have a mouthpiece or paper that says they should be included into the deal. And because of that, one team that was left out, that was not included, was a team that I think could do damage in this college football playoff.
Yeah, there's shades of history with the NCAA. It's the reason they split up into divisions back in the day, I think in the 70s, because these smaller teams had too powerful of a voice. Is it rearing its head again? It's the same reason you turned your TV on, you wanted to watch Minnesota and Michigan play, and you got Lehigh and Lafayette is what you got back in the 70s. That's how the TV, when they controlled it, that's how it worked until they got sued. So yeah, we're seeing a little of that, Steve. The Robin Hood plan. We're taking care of the little guys. But we won't
give them any money. But
the college football nation would prefer we swap those teams out for Notre Dame and. I don't know who the last team was. BYU?
BYU were the first 2 teams left out.
Yeah.
I understand BYU's case. Absolute garbage. The Big 12 at least has a number of decent teams in it. And I don't know what BYU's schedule is right in front of me. they had beaten Utah.
Beat everybody else except for
So why
Tech,
isn't
right?
BYU? And they drop a spot, but Alabama doesn't.
Well, Steve, the playoff committee pushed out their decision on whether to expand the playoff until after the playoff. So it's now in January. I am guessing they are probably going to, especially with some new Petiti fans
But how?
in that room.
Exactly. So
Yeah,
Petiti
yeah.
was on an island.
Yeah.
Okay. Hardly anybody agreed with that. And I'm telling you right now that I don't think anybody would have been worse off this year under the Petiti plan.
Yeah.
And it bothers me because it sounds
We
like
don't
he's
like-
right.
Yes. You know who's right a
Hate it.
lot, Steve? You know
Tell
who's-
me.
Tim Adams, Maverick Technology Partners. They're right. Is your IT right? Why don't you call Maverick Technology Partners and find out? Are your servers up to date? Are you patching them yourselves? Why don't you get a managed service team to think about that stuff you don't have to worry about, and you can enjoy these playoff games? MaverickTechnologyPartners.com. You're doing your budgeting for 2026. Oh my gosh, it's here. Think about some IT services. Where can you need help? Where do you need people? Maybe you haven't made your staffing plan. Bring in some temporary employees from Maverick to support you as you head into the new year and be a winner. Steve, MaverickTechnologyPartners.com.
This is a tough team right here.
Sometimes people that are standing on third base think they hit a triple, but they didn't.
Hey, it's Nick Hopwood, CFP at Peak Wealth Management. At Peak, we have over 25 years of planning and investment experience. We've been through the tough years with bear markets, 2001, 2008, 2020, and 2022. We've navigated these tough years for hundreds of clients to and through retirement. If you're looking for a tough team, check out the CFPs at Peak Wealth. Learn more at peakwm.com/mgoblog today.
This is a tough team right here. Kick his ass, Seabass.
All right, again, a full show. Michigan hockey's got to be brought up again because the number one ranked Wolverines get a 3-0 win in East Lansing. The first shutout for Michigan at the Mun in nearly 26 years. MSU, though, did get the split, winning at the Yost 3-1. It was the second of 4 regularly scheduled games between the two programs.
You want to win that one on the road. They got the opener 3-0. State fans must have been leaving Mun Arena going, okay, we got beat by a better team.
The Munsters.
The Munsters. They were laser slap shot goals. Our goalie was unstoppable, and I'm talking about Jack Ivankovic, and he is fantastic. But what makes hockey so tough to watch, sometimes you do see a different team or certainly a different outcome in that second game, and this has happened to Michigan a lot, even with this great team. And I was at the game at Yost. Michigan won the first period, was up, and then State, I got to say, Steve, if I'm scoring a fight or if I'm scoring a hockey game, State won the last 2 periods. They got a fluky goal, and they just seem to lose steam. These are two really great teams, and they might have 2 of the best goaltenders in the entire country, and one of them, thankfully, is ours, because I don't know if we've had that, over the last few years. They are really good, really clean. We'll see. It's early, Steve, but you're looking at 2 potential 1 or 2 of the top seeds as we head into the rest of the season. Michigan's really good. It would have been really, really nice to get that sweep, and
Yes,
it's
it
just
would.
out of their grasp. It's a lot. State's a big physical team, and their goalie Nightingale is fantastic too. But Ivan Kovic in our goal, he is next level, man. He's next level. So props to him.
I really enjoyed listening to the Michigan State hockey broadcast on the way home. I was driving, and I was listening to Sirius Satellite Radio's Big Ten channel, and they went from one interview and just dropped out, went to the national anthem, and next thing I know, Michigan State hockey is on the air on satellite radio. And it's the Michigan State call. So I'm driving. I'll listen to see how this goes. So funny. Like I learned, like the Munsters comment I made.
Yeah.
That's what they call
Yeah,
the
yeah.
people
Oh,
who
sure.
go to the Mun. But the color commentator, whose name will be nameless because I don't think the play-by-play even introduced him. See, this was his commentary when the puck was dropped, and Michigan State started strong off the getting inside the Michigan zone. This is the color commentator for Michigan State.
Oh, jeez.
And finally, the best part. Oh, come on! that was when Michigan State took a penalty and went into the box for the first time. I wasn't offended by it. I was amused by the whole thing.
Their football coverage at times with Blaha is like that. And we've had our own issues with play-by-play over the years, but that's brutal. That's tough. That's not a great listen.
Michigan went in the penalty box, and he says, I could see reason why that'd be a double minor. That looked like a stick right underneath the throat. Could have killed a man. Referee comes on 2 minutes for whatever. It was amusing. Not offended. I like hearing other broadcasts to see how they do it, how it's done, how it's prepared. It gives you that flavor that you love about the Big Ten.
No, and you get the local sponsorships. We've talked about this. All the farm and seed and tractor ads for the Iowa game. It's amazing. Yes. So it's really cool.
But this was a huge week, though.
Yeah, despite the loss of hoops and hockey in the first one. It was huge.
It was a huge week for Michigan State. It started off with the firing of Jonathan Smith, which is what everybody seemed to have wanted in East Lansing. And immediately they go get Pat Fitzgerald. Floor and ceiling's interesting to me because I don't think Michigan State under Pat Fitzgerald is probably going to win 3 games or 4 games in the year. I think the floor is going to be a little bit above that. I'm not sure the ceiling is going to be there where Michigan State fans think they should be at, contending for conference championships. But I think Pat Fitzgerald is going to get Michigan State into bowl games, be competitive against Michigan, make people feel that Michigan State can beat Michigan, probably will beat Michigan at some point in his tenure. A lot of things happen there. I think MSU is left rock bottom. Let's put it this way.
Oh, my gosh. I can tell you from their fan base, it's not quite the excitement of Jim Harbaugh coming to Michigan. I don't think anything could compare to that. They are ready to run through a wall, and they are excited. Absolutely, for many reasons. First of all, I think he fits their brand. He's a tough guy. They feel like they're a blue collar, like Izzo, putting the guys in football pads to get rebounds and things like that. It's kind of their identity. And he's done all the right things. Yes, I don't think he used Michigan by name, but he did the rivalry thing. He called Michigan out. He dropped the puck at that Mun game.
He went to all the sporting events.
Yeah, so of course he had a Fitzgerald hockey jersey on. He did everything right. And, all of those Michigan State fans who, after the Connor Stallions NCAA thing, put off football in their lives forever because this is not the football I grew up with. They're back, Steve. Trust me, they've all returned, and they are excited.
Wasn't there one Michigan State quote about "I've lost all love for college football"?
Yes, absolutely. One, yes, tons of them. Like, this is wrong. This is our new system. I don't want any part of it. They're back. They were back that fast. But that wasn't it. That wasn't it, though.
No, it wasn't it. And I think Michigan State is going to get more media coverage because Pat Fitzgerald will make that happen. He will be enough in front of the camera, the microphone, bring things up to keep themselves relevant in the off-season conversation. So it's a little bit that Michigan State was kind of being forgotten about during football season.
I mean, Jonathan Smith had a lot to do with that. He's so incredibly chill and, did his heart rate ever go up a skip? And you're going to see a lot different from Fitz.
I think Pat Fitzgerald knows what reality TV is. And I think he will create content. But the other big story of the week is MSU's giant donation by Greg and Dawn Williams. $401 million. Just tack an extra million onto that 400. I don't know. Was it named after a highway system in Canada? I'm not sure.
I don't know.
But a $401 million. Break this down. What's going on and how did it happen?
Well, I don't know how it happened. I know that this was in the works for a long time. I had heard about it. I heard about this giant 9-figure donation from this man for a while now. I heard it like a couple of months ago that it was coming. But one of the things they're doing is breaking off $100 million of it and creating something called Spartan Ventures, a private 501c3 organization that's going to sit outside of the purview of the university construct. So effectively like a business that's there to support the athletics program, which is really interesting. It is something you can do. Clemson did it, Clemson Ventures, so they didn't really get creative with the name. And Bat is a former ACC athletic director. Their current AD.
Georgia Tech? Was he at Georgia Tech?
Yeah. And so he saw all this and said, "Why don't we do this here?" And it's going to be really interesting. And I'll tell you, when you break something off, usually that implies, well, part of it could be sold or invested in or other things. There's more interesting things you can do with this organization. And I wouldn't be surprised if more teams are going to go this way. I mentioned Clemson. I've heard North Carolina is thinking about doing something like this. Wouldn't be surprised if Duke sets up something like this. And it is a next level move. We'll see what it does. It gives them more flexibility to support their athletic department. Now, there are still rules of what you can give and do within the current construct of the current system. So you can't just say give all of that money to athletes if that's what everyone's wondering. But what you can do is create a private vehicle for people to donate, support the athletic department in different ways and different projects they want to do without necessarily going to the trustees or a group of people to make all these decisions for you. Okay.
Let me ask you this. Yeah. Can Clemson Ventures or Spartan Ventures be power enough to topple power within athletic departments?
Ooh, that would be interesting, wouldn't it?
Because you just told me that this is sort of outside the university construct. It's their own thing. Could they have enough power eventually? Can they make deals outside the university construct and then become powerful enough to overturn the university construct itself?
Maybe. I guess the question is, could they cut deals outside of the existing multimedia rights contract that the university has in the athletic department? I doubt it. But it's a great question. Suddenly, does the board of Spartan or Clemson Ventures suddenly have more power than the athletic director? Because maybe they made a great investment, right? Maybe they invested their money in something else.
Maybe we got $401 million into the fund.
Yeah. So
and we don't like the way how you're doing things, so you're out.
Okay. So isn't it interesting, though, that that's a little less than what Michigan State would have got injected with this private capital deal into their athletic department, the deal they wanted to sign. They're one of the schools, and Michigan sunk all the lifeboats coming to schools like Michigan State. Well, they figured out a way to have basically their own injected in and did it themselves. So now, is Michigan State less likely to be on board for the next deal that's proposed to the Big Ten? We'll see, because they have this in place. Are they a little stronger now? They're definitely stronger financially. So we'll see.
So biggest week for Michigan State since when?
I don't know, man.
Winning a national championship in basketball in 2000, making it to the 14 college football playoff in 2015. Is this Michigan State's best week?
It's a great week for them. I don't know. It's tough to say. It's a really good one. Off the field, certainly one of their best, since they hired John Hanna, who really transformed them and they went from Michigan State College to Michigan State University in a few decades. It's a big deal for them. I get, you got to give credit. And by the way, the other like, I'm down on Michigan State. This guy Bat doesn't know what he's doing. All those people flipped around too, because doing all this and this fury was all orchestrated certainly by the AD, right? The Williams stuff, I'm telling you, I knew about this and people knew about this. Like if you read the tea leaves and I've heard people talking, they knew this was coming. So Bat waited. When did he wait? Well, he had a couple Uno cards. He had a fire card and a hire card, and he played them right in succession, and then played the money card right after to create all this attention.
He had the skip and the reverse.
He did. He did. He had it. And I wonder if a team in Happy Valley wishes they had those Uno cards when they decided to fire their coach.
Oh, no. Right? They did have the Uno cards. They were given the draw 4.
They drew 4.
In fact, double duty draw 4. We're going to close with this, Greg.
Yeah.
Penn State coaching search. I mean, this was a disaster by their AD, Pat Crack. Nobody really knows who they really were going after, but it seems like everybody that was linked to it decided they didn't want to be a part of it. And it started with Cignetti, who quickly, pivoted and got the extension from IU. Maybe there was a dance with Matt Rule in Nebraska. Matt Rule got an extension from the Cornhuskers. There was a stat that came out that due to Penn State's firing, over $380 million in contracts were awarded for extensions of players that were linked to the Penn State job. They end up settling, get this, Iowa State's Matt Campbell. They finally hired a head football coach. One thing that I know will not be true if they say it, this is commonly said by athletic directors in the opening press conference, we got the number one guy we wanted. I know that is a bold-faced lie if they ever said that. Matt Campbell was probably on the lowest of list of about anybody. Matt Campbell's done a great job doing more with less. But this guy is always the perennial 8th, 9th choice on everybody's list as a shot. This is what Penn State's got. I'm curious if it's going to work with Matt Campbell, but Matt Campbell has up for the Michigan job. He was up for the Detroit Lions job before Dan Campbell got it. Matt Campbell has been a candidate for just about everybody. He finally landed one. He is leaving Ames. He'll get a whole lot more support from Penn State, but also probably have a little bit more bureaucratic problems with Penn State when he has some disagreements to go along with it. We'll be at an isolated campus. I don't know, but I found the whole thing laughable for a university that seems to rebound pretty well under turbulence.
I was just going to say the other guy who's smiling along with Tony Petitti, Matt Campbell's agent. Because, boy, they had to make a hire fast. And everyone saw all the cards and all what was happening. And he weaseled a little more money out of this deal because of that for sure. They had to make a hire. And
it was past signing day.
They had to get a coach, though, Steve.
It was past signing day, and I don't know how many recruits Penn State got, but it was less than a half dozen.
Yeah.
It might have been one or two.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I
but
saw they were ranked right next to.
Missouri.
Yeah.
They were behind Missouri State.
Yeah.
Okay. Or Montana State. Whatever. It was dismal. It was in the 140s. Penn State will find a way to turn it around. It's just kind of got delayed more than it is immediate. But the Penn State coaching search was bad. And I got to tell you, the rumors about the idea that Jimmy Sexton, an agent for James Franklin, was making the search more difficult. I'm telling you, if I had an agent that was deflecting me away from Penn State because my agent had a grudge, I would fire him. The agent is, at this point, no longer serving in my best interest. He's serving his own. And there were some rumors about, Bob Chesney, who went to UCLA. He's a Pennsylvania native and was sort of linked to possibly being at Penn State. All of a sudden, he gets the job at UCLA. I'm thinking, if this is agent-derived, it can't be my agent if he doesn't serve me in my best interest.
Oh, my gosh. Well, you know who's in our best interest, Steve?
What's that?
Our listeners. Aren't they great? Thank you for an amazing year so far. All the episodes, this great season up and down. We got more to come. Just a shout out. Make sure you listen, follow, tell your friends. I'll share this with Steve off air. But one of our most amazing statistics about our podcast is how many of you listen to this very point. It's in the 90 percentile, Steve. Did you know that? That of all podcasts, how many listen to them for the full length? Of that rating, we are in the 90th percentile of all podcasts.
Wow.
Yep, fantastic on Spotify. So thank you for that.
Yeah, you have gone through the last few years with us, and you've stuck with us, and we certainly appreciate that. We've certainly heard from you, and we look forward to doing more of them.
Awesome. All right, well, Steve, let's get out of here. But before we do, go Blue.
Go Blue, Greg.